Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is going to be very exciting in terms of what you can learn about yourself based basically on your date of birth. And that's just one thing that she offers to people. She's a master alchemist. I'm going to give you titles. I'm throwing them out there. She's a healer. She is so insightful for helping you figure out what's going on in your life, what was going on in your life, how to move your life forward. This is called Walking Between the Raindrops. And Debbie Unterman is back on the program. Welcome back, Debbie. How you doing?
Thank you, Steve. Glad to be here. After a little bit of technical difficulties, I'm very glad to be here.
Because we were walking between the raindrops.
Yeah,
Pretty much so.
everything has been working out beautifully. In fact, I wanted to talk about yesterday when I needed to ask you a question about your birthday. And I just, I was in the middle of like 50 things, of course, like always. But the way that I talk about getting into the flow is when you feel moved, you move. I got up from my desk. I walked over to the phone, found your phone number, dialed. And the first thing you said, which often I'll hear, is, "It's a miracle you got me."
I don't usually pick up that phone, especially that time of the day. And usually it's a spam call. I don't get many on that line, but if I let me answer the phone. And it was you.
Yes.
It's like I didn't even expect it. And I was thinking, did she think that we're on yesterday? I had no reason to know that you were calling. So yeah, those things happen. Sometimes miracles do. And I believe that things happen for a reason. They don't just happen. There's a reason behind it. What's the reason? I don't know. Sometimes you know, sometimes you don't.
I may have the key to why you and I feel so connected. Because it's always been like, I love talking to Steve. I listen to him talk to other people, and he's just great. He's a great interviewer. He's curious. He's got these great questions, and he's real. He's honest. He talks about himself. He self-reveals, but we always have these little things that happen. So this is what we started talking about last time, was the fact that there's this interesting astrology that basically no one knows about. I'll show the book. And last time I said it's very well worn. You can see it's very well worn,
Wow.
like pages falling out. And I've written inside like crazy. So it's called, is it backwards? Spiritual Astrology. Really, I see it backwards. Good. By Jan Spiller and Karen McCoy. It's the only book that, Jan Spiller has a lot of books, but I swear I've never heard of the eclipses, except that you can look them up in the back of this book. It's a little complicated. I've learned how to do it. I do it for all my friends. I have names in here of everybody.
I'm going to show my age. But it looks like a phone book. It looks like a phone book.
It does. It does. It's like a Bible, So all you do is you look up what you have to go before you were born, because it has to be the eclipses that happened while you were in the womb. And like I said, it's a very unusual thing. I happen to have two. I had two happen between the lunar eclipse. There were two solar eclipses, and then my birthday. I was looking up when they were, and they were very interesting dates too. It was 7/11, which is kind of cool. I was born on 7/20, and 2/14, Valentine's Day. Those happen to have been the two solar eclipses, meaning I am teaching two things because those all happened between the lunar eclipse and my day of birth. There were two solar eclipses. I'm the only one in the world so far. You can see how many people I've looked up. It's a possibility, but I came in wanting to teach a lot of stuff, obviously.
Debbie, every time we get together, something comes up.
Oh, no.
My dad passed away on 7/11. Like,
Um,
what are the chances of you saying that random, 365 days, whatever? Um, wow. And last time
that
there was references to my mom that are just undeniable. And so yeah, please continue.
that's
She-
funny because I've never even looked up when they were because it's irrelevant, really. It doesn't matter. But I thought those were interesting dates.
wow,
So there we go
interesting.
again. Yeah. So this is really good. So me, I talked about me last time. I'm teaching Cancer and Aquarius. I'm learning Leo. So guess what? You are learning Aquarius and teaching Leo. So you're teaching the Leo that I need to learn. You're learning the Aquarius that I teach. How's that?
Okay, that's really weird. Now, when we say
That's
that, what
a
what is it?
connection.
What does that mean? Learning Aquarius? What does that mean?
Okay. Luckily, I've got this. I deep dived into it yesterday and I wanted to like really talk to you and tell you all these things. I made all sorts of notes and some of them I can just quickly because I made these notes about them.
And just
The
to
first
backtrack, if somebody missed last time we talked, this all reveals why you're here on this earth to learn and what you're here to teach. And
yes.
you might think you know the answer, but the stars know the answer. That is the answer.
They creepy. It's not creepy. It's actually very cool. But I had just called a client of mine today, and because I was in this whole role, we had a long conversation about her children, their school that they go to, her having to talk to them about stuff, and then we went into a lot of stuff I might talk about today about children because of COVID and learning things they missed in their learning and her ideas about it. And then we talked about being girls and what happens, and then after the 20-minute conversation, I went, hey, when's your birthday anyway? Let me look you up. It was like tick, 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 tick. Everything that we had talked about. She's here to teach and learn. So we do a lot of this unconsciously, hopefully, and I think you have been. When I tell you, I feel like you are right on, right, doing everything you're supposed to do. So I don't want people to confuse it because it is confusing with the North and South Node, because those are very similar. Let me just, before people say, I know all about them, you get two and, well, we also all have a North Node that happens on the day of our birth, nothing to do with the eclipses in the womb. And the opposite is always the South Node. And the North Node happens to be what we're here to do in this lifetime, to do, not to teach or learn, to do, to be,
Do you
to
mean like
accomplish.
do you mean like life purpose?
Yes, and they're always diametrically opposed. It's always that they go like that. It's always whatever your North Node is, your South Node is the opposite. And what you find out is the South Node is what you've already learned in past lives. Okay, so go beyond beliefs. I'm talking past lives. I'm talking things that happen in the womb, woo woo. But you gotta, when you hear it enough, you gotta believe, because it's, again, I want to say creepy. It's not
Well,
creepy.
you are saying that, and that's somebody with your background. Maybe creepy, freaky, doesn't mean it's not
It,
true. And
yeah,
it's just,
it,
it's like, wow, okay.
it's wild that it really works. And I have had clients. So what you're here to learn is often where I'll go with my clients, because that's often what they're in therapy for. And similar with the North and South nodes, I've sometimes taken the book out, a different book, Martin Schulman, who's one of the experts on the nodes, and read the couple of pages about them and had people in tears in my office because it's so personal. So both of these things are on the karmic level. Let's put it that way. You can know your sun sign. If you don't believe in astrology because all you know is your sun sign, and you go, well, yeah, 1/12 of the population is all the same, yeah, there's so much more than sun sign. And these things, because I'm interested in karma, and these are really specific. So it turns out, like, my Aquarius solar eclipse, if I look at the very first line of, and now I've lost the page, of any of the chapters on the eclipses. So I'll look at the very first line, and it's going to say, in order to activate the solar eclipse energy in Aquarius, you first must integrate the lessons of the Aquarius lunar eclipse with your emotional body. So then it turns out, when you have the instructions for the book, when you're looking at the lunar eclipse, it's just a little teeny section inside of the chapter on Aquarius. So I've had to already integrate what you're here to learn. and then I go on to teach it. So the first line is often interesting because it starts with, this is your lunar eclipse, which I have integrated.
Are you saying
right?
mine? This is me personally?
Yours,
Okay.
Steve. So your lesson in this lifetime is detachment. So first of all, I'll say I said it wrong last week. I said I'm here to teach boundaries. I said the wrong word. It's really detachment. Okay. Now let's think about detachment. That means to, like, be in it but not of it, like not attached to the outcome, right? What it is, it is. It is what it is.
That's my favorite. That I say that all the time, and I don't want to say it. And people have called me out on it for saying it because it sounds like
Seinfeld.
Yeah, or negative or nasty, but there's no other way to verbalize it. This is the situation. It is what it is. You can't change the situation because it is what it is. So what you just said, the detachment, that, according to my date of birth and astrology, spiritual astrology, that's what I'm here to learn, detachment.
Yes. And let me just go through a few notes, because I wrote literally go beyond beliefs from one sentence that it had, because it said, okay, this is interesting too, actually. I'll give a couple of sentences. Part of the lesson in learning to detach from old set patterns of thinking is to learn to detach from patterns of thinking, go beyond beliefs, right? Patterns of thinking. You are coming from a past consciousness of royal heritage, Steve. How do you like that?
Okay.
Not necessarily being a king or queen, but set family patterns of, you must do this because it is what your ancestors have always done. You're learning to detach from belief systems that have held you down in the past, whether they were imposed by religion, family, or society. You realize that you do not need to conform to the belief of others. Okay, that's one thing. So
can I share something with you? Oh, is there more in the learning?
Go ahead. Yeah, no.
Okay.
If you want to share.
I am not going to say this just because you're saying that. But in my journey of the last couple of years, I would say that is spot on. If there's one out of all the things I would think I need to learn, and I'm pretty sure I don't think I know I need to learn, that is number one on the list, without a doubt, for many different reasons. But yes.
Like past life reading or something, or has anybody tried to tell you, oh, you think you're a little prince, or you act like you're royalty, or have you ever thought that you were? Or
No.
it says you weren't royalty necessarily, but A privileged life.
I never looked at it that way.
Past life.
In a past life,
So,
I never heard that, had
okay.
any reason to believe that.
Okay.
I'm super humble, very. I'm not entitled. I don't feel that way. Um, so that part I'd have to put over here for a second, but the detachment thing, check the box like 5 times. I mean, that is
Yeah.
true. Truly believe it.
Okay. So let me put something else that I really starred. And, since I did spend all this time looking at your stuff yesterday, let's see. Oh, I love this one. My father also has this. My friend who's coming over today has this. A few people that I know get this, because this is funny, because I've heard so many people try to say, this is my last lifetime, I'm not coming back. But this is what it says to you. And I'm always like, yeah, right. It says, if you can learn this detachment during this lifetime, it is not necessary for you to return to the earth plane.
So if I effectively learn to detach in the way that I'm supposed to, then I'm done here.
That's what it says. But I mean, I have a lot of friends that have, like my father is 97. I'm like, hey, Dad, you're free. I'm telling him in my mind when
Wow.
maybe, I don't know. That's such a tough one for me to buy, because
Agreed.
everyone wants to say that. Usually people who do make a decision that this is going to be the end have a lot of karma. And you've continually told me, oh, I didn't have an easy life. No, I've had a lot of trauma. And a lot of times people go, when they're on the other side, I'm going to talk like I talk. When they're on the other side and they're making a decision, what are they going to do in this lifetime? Who are their parents going to be? What, family they're going to incarnate into? They'll say, give me this and this and this and this. Let me have it all so that I can do it all and be done with it. So you have told me you've had a lot of stuff.
Well, stuff going on, and that's part of the detachment. But at the same time, how would you know whether you want to be done? Like, how do you decide? Like, I don't need to come back. How do you make that decision?
Your soul and your guides will make that decision if you have cleaned your karmic plate.
Okay, all right. So I'm getting it clear now. So if you've learned the lesson, then
because
yes.
it says this
If
to
if
you.
if I've learned that, detachment lesson, whatever there is to be learned fully, then there's no reason for me to come back to continue in another life, because I already figured it out. I already did it. I already accomplished what was supposed to be accomplished in that regard.
Yep. And then you know what you can be on the other side? You can be a spirit guide, an angel for other people, and
Okay.
help them to complete their missions.
All right. Does that come with benefits?
Yeah, not having to come back to this place.
I guess so, right? Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Wow.
So, okay, that was an interesting one. I loved that. It says giving love without attachment, to whether or not it makes the other person love you is a more difficult lesson. You're seeking to separate yourself from an unconscious, self-defeating need for approval. Yours is the lesson of doing what is best for the most concerned. It's Aquarius, Steve. This is why I'm so into this, is because we are moving into literally the age of Aquarius.
Yes, I've been hearing that.
Pluto is going there on March 23rd.
Yes.
After a long trog through Capricorn.
And it started, if I have it correct, I believe around October, somewhere in that area, where it really kicked in. But yes, March 23rd is where it, I guess, the end point. But it's a long time.
There was another. Yeah, I think Neptune or something else went into Aquarius before him. Maybe it was Saturn. So yeah, so some of the planets are leading the way into Aquarius, and they're all kind of grouping together there. But there's going to be people that could say, oh, but what about the 2012, December 21st, 2012? There was this thing that New Age people called the 2012. And one of my friends, that same one that has this, that you do too, Trisha McCann, she was in Machu Picchu, helping people to bring it in there with the, not the Aztecs. What is it? Yeah, it was an Aztec calendar, right? That ended Inca and Aztec.
Yeah.
Mayan, the Mayans. Yeah, the end of the Mayan calendar, right? So there's been all these signs. I'm sure Native Americans have had signs. They had a sign of 500 years of awful, I think of that as 1492 to 1992, 500 years. The grandfathers were seeing this in the native tribes and passing it down, grandfather to son to son to son, for generations. And this vision was 500 years of horror, because they owned the land. I just heard that when the settlers came to Manhattan and they gave them, the little trade, the Native Americans thought they were going to share the island of Manhattan. They were sharing it. They didn't think that someone bought it, because that concept of owning land was never there. So anyway, this vision was 500 years of awfulness. The Native Americans have had it the worst. Trail of Tears, and then 500 years of wonderful. So that tracks too, if we look at that.
So two things.
One
thing I want to share. I never thought of this, but now it's coming back to me. The 2012 thing.
Yeah.
December. I had an event happen that within a week of what the date that you just said, that was a game changer in my life. And I didn't know it at the time. I had an idea, but didn't know it at the time. But it was then. So coincidence, maybe. I don't think so.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
And it's funny, we talk about the age of Aquarius, and I know you're going to know this. I think the year was 1969. The group, the Fifth Dimension, had the song Age of Aquarius, and we're singing about it coming soon. And I didn't think anything of the Fifth Dimension, the name of that group, but there is a fifth dimension. Most of us are in the third, some of us are crossing the fourth, and we're going to get into the fifth, which is, way over here. And those of us that don't move forward are going to be, life is not going to be as great if they don't adopt into the different dimension. Loosely, that's how I understand it. But I never knew the connection between the fifth dimension and and the Age of Aquarius and all that.
Or was that one of those, the winky dink, that they just happened to make the song, and then Hair picked it up, of course, and I don't know which came first.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I got to think about that.
Astrologers may debate, when, and then I told you this last week. This really blew my mind when I deep dived with this one astrologer. He is looking at the nodes, like I talk about the North Node, South Node that we all have. He's talking about the North Node and South Node of Pluto. I mean, which means that he doesn't see the Age of Aquarius for 800 years until the South Node of Pluto goes into Aquarius. And that is like way over my head.
I was just going to say, that's out of my wheelhouse. I'm looking at we're almost out of time, and I don't even know how that is possible.
No.
I double checked it. So
Okay.
that's what I'm here to learn. What am I here to teach?
And Leo, yeah. I think there was something else I wanted to tell you about. Self-loyalty is a very important lesson for you in this lifetime. Being loyal to yourself. In other words, not getting codependent and attached to a love if it means you have to leave her for yourself.
Ding.
Yeah, right. I had a feeling. And these are just the little things that I starred. You are in the position of choosing what your response will be to the role of supporting others rather than being in the spotlight player on the stage. That's interesting. And
can you give me that again? Can you give
You're
me that again?
supporting people. You're not the main actor. You are doing these interviews and you're spotlighting everyone else. So again, you're in the position of choosing what your response will be to the role of supporting others rather than being the spotlighted player on the stage. And
And by the way, I never wanted to be. I was never that person. It was
okay,
never me. Yeah, that's just not me. I always say I'm a team player. I like to work with others. I don't have to be, me, single person, doing my thing. I like somebody
okay.
else.
So we went so much into your lunar eclipse, what you're learning in Aquarius. Let me give you a little bit of your Leo, what you're teaching. You're teaching how to accept love. And I told you this last time. I said, of all the lunar eclipses in the world, I am the one that's about accepting being loved. That's what I'm learning. You're teaching it. So you're teaching how to accept love. You're showing how to be happy and have fun. You're sharing the importance of staying in touch with the child within, the inner child. You're teaching the meaning of being sensitive, and you always say you're a sensitive guy. That you tell women that all the time. I mean, everything. We're not making this up. I'm just reading
it's freaky. It's almost
We've
as if
already talked about it.
it's almost as if you did a questionnaire and you asked me the
Yeah,
questions and I answered them, and now you're just
yeah.
firing them back. But we didn't do that.
No, we've talked about it in the past. You've said it, and now
It's
I'm
spot
reading
on.
it. And one more, show the importance of standing up for the self and accepting recognition. So you can accept recognition even if the spotlight isn't on you.
And I never
But
do. And I never do. I don't. And people call me out on it. Like, stand up. You did this
take
or you
it,
did that.
take
I'm
it
like,
on, take it
yeah.
in, take it in. Okay, so go beyond
Wow.
beliefs. How do you like that? Like,
Wow.
for real.
That
Yeah.
is, it's a mind blow. It really is how
Yeah.
accurate that is based on date of birth. I didn't give you anything else.
That's all. Yeah, it's those 9 months in the womb. I just look it up and I make sure that you weren't teaching or learning two things, and you weren't. It's just that clear.
I
And
want
they're
to
the
say
opposite of me.
it's crazy. And I want to say that, well, one thing was off a little bit there. There really wasn't. It was, everything was exactly right. But I shouldn't be surprised. I've looked at astrology before, not even close to how deep you do, but I've had astrological readings, and based on date of birth and time of birth and location, call it the city, and it was right. The timeline was right. When somebody said, yeah, that's going to be happening in November. Yeah, okay, whatever you say. It happened. It
Right.
did. I can't
Right.
deny it. Like, I want to be skeptical, but
Hey, I'm going to just say this. The three wise men, how do you think they found Jesus? They were following the star. The stars told them that he was coming.
and there you go. It's crazy stuff.
So we'll end there, right?
Debbie, this was super cool. And for anybody that, wants some insight on why they're here, what they should be doing here, it's all right there. Best way to reach you, gobeyondbeliefs.com.
That will get to my website, but call me. I'll talk to anybody. 770-434-7488. 770-434-7488. I pick up the phone. Usually it's junk, but like you,
Yep.
one of these days, someone will be there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I wish we didn't have to go, but on the other side of things, I have to process all this. This is like
Call me.
wild.
Hey, you got my number. And
Yeah.
I did not get your email correct. So you'll have to tell
Well,
me.
good. There was a reason I picked up, because if I didn't give you my date of birth, you couldn't have done that today.
That's right.
And
That's
to
right.
show others that this stuff is legit and real. Super cool. Debbie, I appreciate you, and I'm here to teach you, and I'm here to learn from you.
Yeah,
All right.
that's right. That's right. We
Awesome.
share.
Yep. All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks again.
Next week at 4. I believe this was my last time at 3:30.
Gotcha. All right. Looking forward to it.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.